So, what drives you to serve for this long?
That's a good question. Because honestly, there's not one thing. It's, in a lot of ways, it probably boils down to I spent so much of my time and I invested so much in the unit that it's to the point where it doesn't make any sense for me to just kind of toss that all to the side. Because I mean, I've made a name for myself here, and I've made this my place, and to me, it wouldn't make sense to walk away from that.
I don't know if you remember this, the time you were a private. Did you ever thought you would have be who you are now?
Hell no, never, not a chance. Because when I joined, I mean, 9 years ago, did you think you'd be who you were today? I mean, in so many ways, I'm a different person than I ever was gonna be 9 years ago. So, I mean, I've changed dramatically as a person, but I mean, as far as the 29th goes, no. Private Conrad never thought he would make his way up to First Sergeant Conrad, drop into reserves, come back as a sergeant, and then he's back on his way to being a First Sergeant again. No, Private Conrad wouldn't have believed that in the slightest.
So, as a technical sergeant now, what are like your daily tasks for the 29th you do?
Basically, I moved up so that First Sergeant Lev would be able to kind of handle more bigger scale stuff. So I'm doing day-to-day company sergeant stuff. I'm handling SLT and I'm watching AIT progress. And I mean, First Sergeant is doing all this stuff too, but I'm basically overseeing all the platoons, making sure that everything's going smoothly in the platoons and critiquing where things need to happen. Just kind of essentially what an ASL or a squad leader does, but instead of having 15 guys under me, I've got almost 100.
To go back to the time you were a private, what were your expectations when you joined the unit?
I had no idea what I was getting into. When I joined, it was because I had seen other realism units, and I had actually enlisted in BCT in one of them because I was like, these guys seem kind of cool. And then the unit fell apart out from under me 2 days into BCT. It was like, what the hell? And I found the 29th server just on a whim and played around and did pubbing stuff and just decided to join without even talking to any 29th guys. And once I got in, I guess my expectation was that I was going to have an experience where skill and communication were going to be key, and that it was going to be a community where people tried to get better and didn't really just shit talk people, because that was a big issue. Gosh, in Day of Defeat, the community tended to be really toxic, so the 29th was just this bastion of kind of professionalism that didn't exist back then.
Next question is, who was or is someone you admire in the unit?
Throughout my time here, I mean, someone who's always been above me and has always been an inspiration to me is the now Lieutenant Colonel Wheatley. But I mean, I knew him as a private, I knew him as a PFC, I squared off him against him in a bunch of DoD stuff. I mean, I was out of BCT and in my squad for 3 months before he even came into the unit. So, I mean, I got to watch him kind of start developing, and then I did my retirement stint, and I came back, and he was just this powerhouse, and he did amazing things, and he still does amazing things for the unit. But I mean, initially, I think my squad leader, he was at the time he was Technician 5th Matkowski. It was Matkowski, and he was my acting DI. I don't even think the official DI was there. I don't remember, but I know he did DI stuff for me in BCT, and then I came out of BCT and I was just dropped into his squad, And to me, 9 years ago, as a private, he was like the pinnacle of greatness. And then I got to watch myself surpass him, so that was really cool.
What was your first job you did in the 29th?
It was either I was an enlistment liaison, but I think before that, I was this ancient role on the forums called Coroner. And Coroner, my job was essentially, whenever a discharge got posted, I copied the discharge over to another archive board so that it could be easily accessed without any comments or anything on it. So my entire job was copying and pasting threads. And then I got a message from, I guess, at the time, Captain Wilson, and I guess he's Captain Wilson now too, but got a message from him, hey, you don't need to do that anymore, I've built the forums to do it for us. And it was just like my job immediately outsourced, but it was just like, I think that's why on the old forums my post count was so ridiculously high, just because that's what I was doing, is I was just copying over posts.
Yeah, this question may get a big answer because it's what other staff positions have you had?
First was I did coroner stuff. I did quartermaster secretary stuff, which was like updating. God, what even was quartermaster secretary? I don't even frankly remember. Oh yeah, it was like updating like people's jackets and stuff and making sure everything was up to date. And then I ended up somehow ascending the ranks, and I was the head quartermaster secretary for all of the platoons. I think as a corporal or a PFC, I was doing that. I got really heavy into Lighthouse, so I did enlistment liaison stuff, and then I got in as an ADI, and then as a GI, and around that time I also kind of got involved with Engineer Corps, and I was briefly a level technician, and then I was overseeing a lot of the enlistment liaisons, but I was never the head enlistment liaison. I was senior drill instructor for Lighthouse for quite some time. Probably 2 years I was running Lighthouse.
I don't know if this may be classified, this question, but are there any big future plans inside for the 29th?
I can't speak for what's really going on in Baker and in Charlie, but I know in Able we are kind of doing some restructuring stuff, which is no secret. Any Able guy should tell you that. And I know there is some big stuff on the horizons as far as potential deployments and inter-squad competitions and stuff, so look forward to that in the future.
Well, what do you see as a big difference in the unit compared with the early days that you joined?
I mean, the most obvious one is the size of the unit. I know when I joined, the unit was 2 platoons. CP1 and CP2. That was it. And the squads were like 8 guys. So the entire unit was less than a current size platoon, basically. Now we have hundreds upon hundreds of members spanning all over the globe. I know when I joined, it was mostly US guys. There was maybe like 2 or 3 people that didn't live in the US or Canada. And now we've gone from this really kind of localized regional thing to this worldwide community, and I think that's fantastic.
If you could say something to all of the 29th, what would it be?
The one thing to be successful into the 29th, to really make something of your time in the 29th, you have to understand that it is just a game, and even though it's just a game, you have to understand that there are people on the other side of that line when you're playing the game. When you're staring at someone in-game or talking into him in TeamSpeak, that's another person who has the same ambitions and aspirations as you, and in order to be successful, you have to understand that the people you're dealing with are people that people make mistakes, and that the sky is the limit. I mean, there's always kind of this idea that you can't make it up into certain levels of squad level or platoon level, because I know a lot of people have been like, oh, well, it's an old dogs club because everyone who's up there has been there for 8 years. And what I always tell people is there's no reason you can't reach that if that's what you strive for, but never ask for that. Work like you want, whatever position you want, whatever role you want to play in the 29th. Don't go and tell people, this is what I want to do. Show them what you're capable of. Show them what you would perform like if you were in that position, and people will notice you, and you will get where you want to go. But saying, I want to be a squad leader isn't going to get you a squad leader position. It's showing that you have the potential to do that, and being receptive to criticism, and really, you got to show, not tell. You got to put your bullets where your mouth is, and if you want to show off that you're capable of taking on a sniper position, or that you want to be a squad leader, if you eventually want to be a platoon leader, you have to show that you have those qualities rather than brag about how you have them and not be able to show it.
That's very nicely said. So we're up to the last question of this interview. What is the best thing that have ever happened to you when you were in the unit?
There's a lot of good things that have happened. The one that's coming to mind right now is the day that I found out that way back in DoD, CP2S2, I found out that my squad leader was going to be leaving the squad, and I was going to be getting the squad, and I was going to be the squad leader. And as a ASL back then, I had no clue that was going to happen. And I mean, I wanted it to happen, but finally getting my own squad command was absolutely amazing. And in a similar vein, when I got the message of the offer to take over CP1 as the platoon sergeant / leader, that was another fantastic moment. Was really the major bounding blocks where I got to be recognized for what I was doing and got to take some serious control.